This beautiful skull has been nicknamed Lucia. It belonged to a woman who was in her early 20s when she died, and it dates to around 13,000 years ago. But it's not just the date that I'm interested in. It's what she looks like.
Anthropologist Walter Neves believes that he's uncovered a secret about Lucia.
Well, this is Lucia's skull, and the bad news are that she doesn't look like she should look like.
So what would you expect her to look like?
Well, as you know, Native Americans came from East Asia, and I will show you a typical skull from East Asia. And as you can see, they have very different faces. One of the greatest differences in terms of facial morphology happens in the cheekbones. You see that Asians, they have a very wide cheekbones,
yes.
Okay, kind of laterally projecting.
Yes, it gives this very wide face,
right. That's right.
Doesn't it,
yeah,
across
yeah,
the cheekbones?
Yeah. If you go to Lucia, you find kind of narrow cheekbones.
Okay, if Lucia and her population don't look like East Asians and they don't look like modern Native Americans, who do they look like?
We discovered that, amazingly, she looks much more like Australasians than with East Asians or Native Americans, if you want.
Australasian? It sounds bizarre. But Walter found that Lucia had more similarities with Australasian skulls than any others. And when Lucia's features are reconstructed, it's even more obvious that she looks nothing like modern Siberians or Native Americans. It suggests a superhuman feat of seafaring.
So if these early Americans look more like Australians and Melanesians, does that mean that they arrived here across the Pacific?
No. Because if you take into account the technology available like 12, 13,000 years ago, that would be impossible.
Okay, but then how do you explain the fact that modern living Native Americans don't look like Lucia? They do look like East Asians.
That's very easy to explain, because if you go back to Asia around 14,000 years ago, the people that live today in Asia with their typical morphology, they were not there.
Right. So you're saying that Lucia's people came into the Americas before the appearance of East Asian features?
Definitely. But they used the same route as the Mongoloids did a couple of thousand years later.
So this is absolutely not evidence for any sort of trans-Pacific crossing?
Definitely not across the sea.
Walter is adamant that Stone Age people could not have made it across the Pacific. He believes Lucia's ancestors did come from Asia, but before those classic East Asian features became common. However, Walter hasn't solved the mystery of how Lucia's ancestors found a way past all that ice.